the life-changing consequences of personal injuries. Now, don't get me wrong, most personal injuries are not life-changing. Most personal injuries, thankfully, is something that people recover from, whether it be with surgery, without surgery, with physical therapy, with chiropractic treatment, whatever the case may be. The great majority of people who get injured, they recover, if not fully, they recover to such an extent that whatever the ramifications of their injuries are, or is rather, it's not really a significant deal for the rest of their lives. But then there's a sector of the population who get injured and they are significantly and catastrophically injured, and their whole lives is forever changed, and it just will never be the same. And those people get a bad rap because with those kind of injuries, hopefully will come big settlements and big verdicts. And so what happens is, we as an uninformed population, we will see in the news, this person got $30 million verdict, or that person got a settlement of $10 million. So whatever it is, and all we see is the number, and all we see is a number that to us seems just so incredibly outrageous that we cannot even imagine what kind of injury that must have been that resulted in that verdict. And so instead we start making up stories to ourselves. We start thinking, oh, a crazy jury, that's why everything's so expensive, jurors are doing crazy stuff, and our system needs to change, and all of those kinds of reactions, which are unfortunately just the natural reaction that most people that don't know about what's going on have. And it's actually helped or furthered by insurance companies and big lobbies that put a lot of money behind those media publications to make sure that it comes across that way. The reality of it is that the great majority of big verdicts are attached to significant and catastrophic injuries. So people get $20 million, $30 million, $40 million. Those people will never be the same again. These are people who maybe can't walk again. These are people who maybe can't feel again. These are people who maybe, for example, burn victims, they're totally and completely disfigured to where they're too embarrassed to go to a movie theater because they don't want people to see them. They're too embarrassed to be seen outside in the light of day because they are just ashamed of what they look like. And even though it was really not their fault at all, they didn't ask for that injury. Or in certain cases, these are situations where there's people who have died. So this is situations with wrongful death case. And so you have the head of the household is now dead and leaves behind, many kids and a wife and a whole bunch of people that depended on him or her, and they're just not going to have him anymore. And so when you look at these big verdicts, these big settlements, it's not the number. It's not, somebody got X millions of dollars, that's crazy, or this and that. It's really just a calculation, a computation of what the change in that person's life is. And the more significant the judgment or verdict, the more significant that change is. Now, mind you, it's not always like that. Every now and then there's an outlier. Every now and then there's what should otherwise maybe like a case on the smaller side gets, $300,000 or $400,000 or whatever. And it's, let's just say, quote unquote, a great result for that person because the injury they had doesn't quite warrant that amount of money. But that's like the absolute outlier. That's stuff that doesn't happen every day. That's stuff that when it does happen, it makes the news because of just how great that result was for the lawyers that got it. But that's just not the majority of what we're talking about. The great majority of these big verdicts and big settlements come attached with a big deal of suffering and a big deal of pain and a big deal of changes to that person's life. And the great majority, if not all of our catastrophically injured clients would rather not be catastrophically injured than get this money. Like if you ask them, hey, you could turn away, $5 million, $10 million and be able to walk again, what would you do? They all say the same thing. The money is something that's needed now because of what happened to them, but it's definitely not something they wanted, and it's definitely something they would gladly give up if they could in exchange for their help. And it's not at all that surprising, right? Because my clients and you are the same. If you thought to yourself, would I want $5 million if I became paralyzed? Is that something I would want to do? If somebody offered me, hey, tell you what, if tomorrow you agree to become catastrophically injured and be paralyzed and we'll pay you $5 million, is that something you do? Chances are 99% of you watching these videos, the answer is no. That's not something you do. For good reason, because we want to enjoy our lives. Everybody just wants to be happy and make the best of what time we got on earth. And the money isn't enjoyable if it comes with a significant and permanent catastrophic injury that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. So anyway, if you didn't know, now you know.